Okay, so for those of you who are in section Z2, you are also free to attend lectures in the earlier time slot, no, the 3 to 4:30 p.m. time slot, if you are available. Okay. So I will do a share screen. Okay, can you see my slides? Nakikita? Yes or no? Nakikita. Okay. Okay, so earlier we have been talking about the Greeks, no? How science developed among the Greeks in Greek civilization. Okay, so the ancient Greek philosophers during that time, no, were interested about the way things were, human behavior, and also about natural world. But among the three, the three most popular, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, the thinker who had the most interest when it comes to the natural world was Aristotle. Okay. So the philosophies of Aristotle and also partly of Plato would also be carried into early Islamic philosophy. So during that time, in the Hellenistic period, during the earlier centuries CE, okay, during the earlier centuries CE, or the era that we have been calling Anno Domini, or the year of the Lord, or in CE terms, Common Era, Rome was at its height and then eventually began its disintegration. Okay, so it slowly adopted Christianity into its state religion, and by that time it has been dividing itself into two, a western part and an eastern part. The western part was still pegged at Rome, no? The city of Rome, which was all the time the capital or the central hub of the whole empire. While the eastern part is slowly being anchored in Byzantium, then called Constantinople. Constantinople because it was built by Emperor Constantine. The emperor is said to have been responsible for making Christianity the religion of the whole empire and eventually the state religion. Okay. So from then on, Christians were no longer persecuted. No? They were no longer a minority. And actually, the leadership is encouraging everyone to be Christian. Okay, from the Roman Empire, Christianity was also passed to the successor states. The successor states of the different peoples that eventually ate the Roman polity. So from there were born the states of well, the different states of the Europeans, like the French, the many German states, the many states of the Iberian Peninsula, and so on. Okay, but at this period, Europe went into a decline. Why? Because of well, Christianity was already the dominant philosophical, the dominant philosophy pervading all of Europe during that time. No? And at that time, no, it was very restrictive, unlike today. No? Unlike today, there are some many allowances are already being permitted by the leadership of the church. But at that time, no, there was so little that could be done, no? In terms of, for example, investigating things and going against what the church was teaching. Okay, so we call this part of Europe or this era of Europe the Dark Ages, which should encompass the early medieval to at least the middle periods of or the middle part of the medieval age of Europe. However, in other parts of the Mediterranean and Western Asia, there are a lot of things going on. There is a movement gaining strength in the Arabian Peninsula, known by its followers, known by people generally as Islam, and its followers were Muslim. So it took shape in the Arabian Peninsula in the middle part of the first millennium CE, okay, first millennium CE, after the fall of Rome. And it began to extend its influence into the neighboring areas. And at that time, diba sinabi ko Rome was divided into two parts, no? The Western and the Eastern. The Western already fell, no? Yun yung Western Europe, yung magiging Western Europe, no? Successor states. And then the Eastern part was Byzantium, no? And its hub was Constantinople, the city of Constantinople, which is today called Istanbul, no? The largest city of Turkey. Now, the Eastern Roman Empire continued its life, even as many things were going on around it. It continued the traditions, no? The Roman traditions, even its Greek foundations. Actually, the location of Constantinople was really appropriate because it was situated in Greek territory, no? Greek territory or Greek civilization was the norm. And so it continued for 1,000 years at least. 1,000 years. And then clashing with this movement known as Islam. This was not only a movement, but it also gained a political form. It created caliphates, political entities that extended from the Arabian Peninsula into southwestern Asia. It gobbled up the powerful kingdoms beside it, extended its influence into North America until up to southwestern Europe, no, in Spain. So this was the things happening during the first millennium CE in the Mediterranean world. Okay, so what can we say about Islam, no, in terms of science and technology? So metaphysics and knowing the natural world was generally subsumed into how life and society should be lived according to the Islamic faith. Okay. So first of all, there is this belief system, this all-encompassing belief system that is monotheistic, just like Christianity, just like Judaism. No? Judaism, the parent of these two religions, no? Christianity and Islam. Christianity was the first to arise, and then Islam a little bit later. Okay, but its parent was, their parents was uh, the 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 monotheistic religion or religions based in the Middle East or in Palestine. Judaism is a representative of this. Okay. Scientific thought in the early Islamic era built on the philosophical traditions of the Greek, and then later the topping, the Roman topping of that cake, no? If you want to see it in layer form. Okay, the Greek foundation and then the Roman. But of course, we can still consider the Roman as part of the Hellenistic period, which is founded on the Greeks or on Greek civilization. A set of Islamic scientific thought was created by folding in non-European philosophies. So what is important when it comes to this event happening in the Middle East is that this movement which created a belief system, which extended a belief system and also formed political entities, were also instrumental in preserving Greek civilization, especially when it comes to scientific thought and ways. At the time when Europe was in its dark ages, we can say that the refuge of Greek heritage, of Greek ways of thinking about the natural world was in Western Asia, was within the Islamic realm. Okay, so this is an important role that was assumed by this civilization. Not only that, aside from its Greek foundations, it also blended in the different helpful traditions of the other cultures, like the Persians, the Mesopotamians, the Indians, and perhaps a tinge of Chinese heritage. They have also blended it in and then created a very progressive potpourri, in terms of scientific knowledge and technological advancement that would later on be passed into Europe, back again into the place where the Greeks were making it. The Islamic philosophers and authors conveyed much of classical Hellenistic thought into medieval Europe. And then we can also say that Islamic philosophy in the first to the early second millennium CE supported the growth of science and technology. So in the previous meeting or the previous lecture, I have already said something about BCE, which is before Common Era, and then CE is Common Era. Okay, BCE is the equivalent of the BC, the before Christ, and CE is the equivalent of AD or Anno Domini or in the year of the Lord. I also mentioned about BP, which is before present, because in the other lectures, it will also be relevant to reckon time periods in terms of BE, particularly when it is it has long segments. Okay, so this is the Mediterranean and Southwestern Asian landscape during the 7th century CE, the early 7th century CE, at the time when Islam was appearing and gaining strength. Okay, we have here the Arabian Peninsula, with the cities of Makkah and Medina, no? The two focal points of Islam. You also have on top Constantinople, which is still Roman Empire, no? Eastern Roman Empire at that, and is still very much alive in its traditions. No? So for centuries, these two, no, the kingdoms of the Muslims and the Eastern Roman Empire would stand in conflict against each other. Of course, there are also others like the Sassanid Empire in Persia, which should eventually be brought under Islamic influence. Okay, so this is just to show you that there has been political power has been passed on, not only within a caliphate, but some caliphates. So for instance, the Rashidun Caliphate, no, was one of the first. No? And then afterwards, the Umayyad Caliphate, no, came into power, succeeding the Rashidun Caliphate. And then there was the Abbasid Caliphate. So at the time of the Abbasid Caliphate, this was when science and technology have been reached their golden age in the Abbasid Caliphate. This was centered in Baghdad. So Baghdad was a new city then. It was made during that time, during the and towards the late millennium, first millennium CE. It was patterned after Alexandria, because Alexandria was the great city that everyone looked up to. Diba? Aside from Rome, which was already in decay, Alexandria and also perhaps Constantinople were the two great cities of the ancient world. Lalong-lalo na Alexandria. And then when a new city was being built on the plains of the Euphrates and the Tigris in what is now Iraq, they have patterned this city after Alexandria and they called it Baghdad. Okay, so this was the capital of that caliphate. So everything good was going on in Baghdad. And it came to science and technology. Okay, 750 to 1258 CE was the duration of the Abbasid Caliphate. And its rulers were thought to be descendants of the Prophet Muhammad's uncle Abbas. The highest, or the zenith of science was in the reign of Al-Mamun, 813 to 833 CE. Okay, so you can pause the video if you want to copy some of the things here in the slides. What may have been the factors in the growth of science and technology? Well, first of all, we can cite the religion itself, Islam. Islam has been permissive, no? Siguro ngayon, when we think of Islam, we think of terrorists or jihadists, no? But not always like that. No? It is not always like that. There are times and there are also places in Islam that are different from the Muslims that we perceive as fundamentalists. Actually, there are many kinds of Muslims, no? Hindi lang yung sinasabi natin na ganyan, no? Yung nanggugulo or they love to wage war against the Philippine state, no? Marami rin silang klase, no? And you might be surprised to find out, no, na mas they have been faithful, no? Many of them have been faithful and have been good when it comes to philosophizing about things, no? Also when they philosophize, no, things about being human, no, about faith in God, halimbawa for those of you who believe in God, magaling din sila dyan. Okay? So the scriptures of Islam, no, have been instrumental in this, at least in the way they have been interpreted by people, no, by its followers. So it permitted the growth of knowledge by investigating the world around them. In order to learn about God, in order to know about God, and to be closer to God, you should know His or her creation, the world around you, which is God-derived. And in order to reproduce these systems of learning, they have been building Islamic schools called madrasas. So the first madrasas were being built within those caliphates. Parang ano yan yung Christian schools or Catholic schools, no? They also have religion subjects that would emphasize on what their followers should be doing, what good behavior is and how to do it. Okay, how to worship God, or how to worship the Lord. Okay, so things like that, they also teach it in the madrasa with uniforms. I don't know, no, pero usually pag in other countries kasi you could see school children, especially where Muslims are a little bit numerous, no? Nakikita mo, no, during the afternoon naglalabasan na, no, in school uniform, no? The girls and the boys. Ganyan din. So these are the students of the madrasas. I think in Baguio we also have that, no? Hindi ko alam kung may madrasa, but I know that there is a mosque there, at least maybe 2 mosques in Baguio. Because many years ago, I have been living beside that mosque, no? Although I am not a Muslim. But you could hear their prayers, no? And the sound of their call to prayer. So thirdly, the establishment of the House of Wisdom by the Caliphate. The House of Wisdom. So it is an intellectual hub where scholars not only discuss something about religion and God, but also about how to investigate the natural world, how to explain what they are encountering in their everyday lives when they see natural phenomenon. So these are the things that have been going on in these institutions. And then there is what you call the translation movement during that time. Translation movement because the leaders and the intellectuals saw that many things have to be learned, not only within the within their own tradition, but also from the neighboring countries like the Greeks, di ba? The Greeks have a rich intellectual tradition and they want to learn more of this. They want to learn more of this. So they employed many scholars that are familiar with other languages. And they could act as interpreters and translators. So for example, when they wanted to translate Greek writings, they called upon Syrians during that time who were already part of the empire, the Islamic Empire or Caliphate, and who were familiar with Greek. Okay, so they were the ones who were doing the translation in Greek, of Greek texts. And then also they do the same with Persian writings. No? Also with the other languages, no? The languages of the Middle East, perhaps of Egypt, and most importantly of India. They also have translators for that. So in effect, what we can see is the blending of different knowledge systems, no? And incorporating them into one developing body of knowledge, which is being used by the early Islamic people. Okay, so it is not only Greek, but the foundation, of course, is Greek. But not only that, the different forms, halimbawa, of mathematics, they are not only limited at this point to arithmetic and to geometry, but also to the higher levels of mathematics. Diba? Like those from Mesopotamia, from Persia, and from India. Okay. Also technology, in terms of technology. The same, no? The Persians have their own technology which were incorporated into this. Ano pa, also the Mesopotamians and other parts of North America and also of Arabia and also of India. Okay, nagkakaroon ng exchanges dyan sa mga lugar na yan. But not only that, even far cultures located afar, like Chinese, like that of the Chinese, little by little they have found their way, no? That technology, Chinese technology, have found their way into the Islamic realm. In fact, one of their trading partners, no? Distant trading partners at the time, were the Arabs. And it was because of this that they have been developing the blue and white porcelain. Diba? You are familiar with porcelain, tapos ang madalas na kulay at disenyo nun ay yung blue and white with patterns of peonies or roses and animals and so on. No? And according to scholars, one of the impetus for this is the demand, no? Is the Arabian demand for those kinds of vessels. Okay? So ganito yung naging role ng Islamic realm when it came to science and technology. Ano pa ang babanggitin natin? So it was not only in Southwest Asia or in the western edge of India or in Persia and Anatolia or present-day Turkey, but Islamic influence also extended throughout the whole of North Africa up to Morocco, and then found its way into the Iberian Peninsula, into Spain. Okay, Spain and Portugal. Only a small part of Spain was not taken by the Muslims. No? The northwest corner of Spain was not taken by the Muslims. So only those parts. No? In fact, they were attempting to advance into France, into southern France, and if it were not for the forces, no, the combined forces of the church and the French, makakatuloy pa rin yung mga Muslims doon. Okay, so they were stopped there, south of the Pyrenees Mountains, mountain range. Okay, so not only that, even in China, no, they came close to China, extending their influence into Central Asia. So that all of the Central Asian republics today, no, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, ano pa yung alam nyo, Kyrgyzstan, no, lahat yan, no? Pakistan, yes, no, they are all Muslims. Western China is Muslim, no? That big part of China, almost comprising 1/4 at least of the whole of the Chinese state, no, is Muslim. Okay, but they are a minority compared to the Han Chinese. Okay. And they were still, the Muslims were still extending their influence into India and then later on into Southeast Asia. Okay. But by the time it extended its influence into Southeast Asia and into the Philippines, medyo natatapos na yung golden period ng science and technology by then. Okay. Africa nga pala, no? North Africa and even Eastern Africa, no, is also Islamic. Okay, so translation of the different works of the different traditions, no, would be from the different languages like Greek, Persian, and also Latin eventually. No? And they were used, well, really for religious purposes and for secular purposes. For example, in order to develop Islamic theology to be used as debates, no, for in arguments. Some authors would like to think, no, that the contrast between Christian Byzantium, no, the Christian Roman Empire or the Christian Eastern Roman Empire, and the caliphates would be good reason why the Muslims have to be always on their toes, no? Na hindi pa patay-patay. Eventually, no, if we take a look at history, the Byzantium Empire would eventually be taken over by the Muslims, but not in the form of the caliphates as we know it in this way, no, but in the form of the Islamic Turks, or those gaining power in the Anatolian region, or what is Turkey today, the Ottoman Empire. So this would extend its influence throughout Turkey, taking over Greece and a big part of Eastern Europe until the 20th century, early 20th century. Okay, and even then, no, they have maintained that, well, not throughout, no, but at least in different periods, the legacy that was brought to them by the earlier Islamic periods. Okay. So we have mentioned already that early Islamic philosophy had Greek philosophical foundations. Okay. Greek philosophical foundations. During its first phases, it was Platonic in orientation. Okay, so for example, the doctrine of ideal forms was also there. And later on, Aristotelian thought gained momentum in its later stages. And this was the time of the development of learning in the Iberian Peninsula, I mean, in Spain and Portugal, those areas, which was under Islamic control then. So at that time, Spain was the cities of Spain under Islam was one of the more progressive cities in Europe compared to, for example, Paris or Rome or the cities of the German states na papatay-patay. Okay, the cities of Spain at the time, Cordoba, the Andalusian region. They were energetic. They were open-minded. And things, a lot of good things were going on in there. Okay, so later thinkers became predominantly Aristotelian in perspective. Al-Andalus, no? Al-Andalus is Islamic Spain. No? Al-Andalus became a bastion of Aristotelian thinkers. So compared to Platonic thought, Aristotelian thought is more open and more advanced, more contributory to what we know as science today. Aristotelian thought. And this happened, one of the areas in which it happened was in Islamic Spain. Okay. Okay, so you can read the quotations here by Ibn Rushd, one of the scholars there. Okay, so this is a picture of one town in Spain. I took this picture a few years ago. So this is what Al-Andalus looked like, no? Until today, it is still the same, without much trees and greenery. Ganyan naman sa Spain. So Ibn Rushd, for example, suggested that the Quran instructed humans to look for knowledge. He believed that revelation in the Quran is to be the highest form of knowledge, but because many people cannot understand this, a theology which is based on human reason is necessary. Okay. So human reason is placed a little bit lower than what is to be expected, no? When we do a study or a learning of the things around us, no? Or of the revelation of the Quran. And then Ibn Arabi suggests the idea of a unity of existence, stating that everything is connected to each other. So these are some of the philosophies prevalent at that time. And these have contributed to Islamic theology. Another thinker would be Al-Farabi, who put forward the doctrine of emanationism, that the universe emanates from the divine, and that it is composed of spheres, one inside the other, the outer being the realm of God and the innermost of human realms. So you could see that most of them were thinking within the context of Islam, no? Of the Islamic religion. Just like the Christians naman, no? And most of the European philosophers also of the Greeks, so many of them have been thinking within that context. No? Ibn Sina is perhaps among the popular of these thinkers. Ibn Sina is called Avicenna in Europe. Okay? I don't know if you have your professors have been mentioning his name when you talk about history of chemical compounds or chemical procedures in your chemistry subjects, no? Because he also has a role there, no, in the history of chemistry. He is a polymath, no? Pag sinabing polymath, hindi lang magaling sa math, no? Porket may math dyan, math lang yung alam niya, no? Polymath, ibig sabihin, marami siyang areas of study or concerns na nalalaman or kaya niyang gawin, no? He can do mathematics or numbers. He can also do science and logic. He can also do the arts. He can also write poetry. He is also into religion, no, those things. You call that a polymath. And he suggested that God is the only absolutely uncompounded simple entity. Well, just like the other thinkers. Okay. So most of them, no, if not all, almost all of them would be saying that God is the absolute. Is the absolute. He is the uncompounded. He or she is the undivisible. Okay. Ibn al-Nafis had this concept of metabolism in organisms, that both the body and its parts are in a continuous state of dissolution and nourishment, inevitably undergoing permanent change. So they were also philosophizing about physiology, more advanced than being thought of in the Greek in Greek civilization. And there's also this argument for bodily resurrection, which possibly caused him to formulate a theory for pulmonary circulation, diba? Because in the Abrahamic religions, there's usually this concept of resurrection, diba? When we talk about Abrahamic religions, we are referring here to Christianity, to Islam, Judaism, no? Because they evolved from Western Asia, no? from that personality, called named Abraham. Okay. I have this some details about Ibn Sina. Because Ibn Sina is one personality that is important to remember. Aside from being a doctor, he also has contributed a significant amount to chemistry. And actually, his name is also being applied to several scientific names. Diba? For example, one of your mangrove species is named after him. Avicenna. So he was born near Bukhara. Bukhara is in Central Asia, in what is now called Uzbekistan. And later on, he moved to Baghdad. As part of his training, no, as part of the things he liked to study, no, Quran was one. And then arithmetic was another, and actually he learned this from an Indian seller, no? Seller of vegetables. Kaya noon you could, well, up to now naman, you could learn things formally from a teacher or from a professor, and also from people who are not really academics but they have great knowledge. Especially yung mga businessmen. The reason why they became businessmen is they are adept in quantities and also in thinking about economics, no? So saan gaganansya and so on. Actually, the Indians are good in mathematics. They also have this kind of seed, no? The seed of a tree which they used as I don't know if I still have some here. They use as weights at hindi nagbabago yung weight na yon. Okay, so during ancient times they have been using that as weights. Halimbawa, meron silang titimbangin na maybe precious metals or an amount of an expensive spice like saffron, for example, or maybe nutmeg or mace, and it was still expensive. Okay, so Ibn Sina was also reading the works of Aristotle, and he was also learning from healers at that time. During ancient times, no, well, oftentimes the healers have been wandering professionals in the Middle East, also in India, no? Perhaps there was also that aspect of people do not really want to associate with them much because they have been associating with many people that have diseases. Okay, so they have been left to wander maybe, no? Or to reside in places that are not really frequented by the community, no? By many people. So Ibn Sina became physician to the Emir after learning much about the healing tradition, and he wrote about this work called the Canon of Medicine, which incorporated the medical knowledge that people know of during that time, no? The state of the art, no? So to speak, healthcare system during that time. So he codified that, and also he built upon that, no? And this was later passed on to the doctors of medieval Europe. This helped in the development of the medical sciences in Europe. So magpapasalamat tayo dito sa phase na ito, no, ng history, no? Kasi kung hindi dahil dito nawala na lahat ng mga natin, no? Yung Greek writings and those heritage, no, that the classical era have been producing. Unfortunately, in Baghdad, no, during the time na ito, no, during the 13th century, no, 1200s, well, yes, the 1200s, the Mongols were advancing. So eventually, most of Asia, especially the civilized parts of Asia, have been prized booty, no? As the Mongols saw it, no? And they overrun it, no? From Central Asia, of course China, no, nauna na yung China, nandun na, no? China, and then Central Asia, going to the Middle East, no? pati yung mga caliphates, they were conquered by the Mongols. India was spared, no? A part of a significant part of India was spared, and also Europe, no? Actually, the Mongols were already knocking into the doors of Europe, no? In Eastern Europe. Kung hindi lang sila matibay-tibay, ano na sila, no? They will also have been overrun by the Mongols. And so this brought the end of this golden era. No? This was also partly responsible for the end of this golden era. But the writings have been preserved, no? Fortunately, and it found its way into other cultures, like the European culture, no? And the Renaissance period. Okay, characteristics of early Islamic scientific thought. Science and technology was used, no, not only in secular for secular purposes, but also for religious purposes. Okay, so first of all, for secular purposes, they would like to grow rich. The quest for gold is one of the goals of many people at that time, no? And they have been tinkering on many procedures that could transform different things or metals into gold. So this is called alchemy. Okay, this is called alchemy. Up until the medieval period in Europe, they were also doing this, di ba? If you have been familiar with ano ito? Yung fairy tale, na? The children's story, Rumpelstiltskin, meron dong part na there is an attempt to transform hay into gold, di ba? Okay, so aside from that, they also employed science and technology for the purpose of religion. Like for example, if you want to pray, di ba? You should always be facing Makkah. So in order to determine where Makkah is, you have to study astronomy, do computations, estimates, etc. And then also the time. You also have to control the time when things are being done. Kasi sa Ramadan, when you fast at the start of a specific time, and then you also end at a specific time, and it differs day to day. Okay, so you have to compute for that. Also, when there's a funeral, and there are some specifications for the body to be laid down, which should be facing Makkah, etc., etc. Again, you have to compute, no? You have to determine where Makkah is. Okay, so these things, no, are important, and it takes knowledge in science and the use of technology for this to be achievable. Okay, and of course, so we have mentioned that developing further the field of medicine is founded on the principles of Galen, no, in the Hellenistic period. So these are some of the examples of other scholars during that time. This is only nice to know, no? Siguro si Ibn Sina, yun na lang ang ano niya, tandaan niya. But these ones are only nice to know. No? As you can see here, there are many things that have been developed by the Arabs. Okay. Metallurgy, aside from astronomy and also mathematics, no? Which they have gotten from their neighboring areas. Okay, so all these things have been translated from their original languages into Arabic, the lingua franca of the Islamic realm, Arabic. And then later on, when the heritage of the Arabs are to be studied by the Europeans, they have to be translated from Arabic into the lingua franca of medieval Europe, Latin. Okay, so ganun yung ano natin, no? Yung naging procedure nung mga panahon na yun. Okay. I want to emphasize on these two Islamic philosophical schools. We have the Mu'tazila and the Ash'ariyah. Okay, the Mu'tazila and the Ash'ariyah. Okay, first the Mu'tazila. According to them, Quran is God's word, but it did not existed from time immemorial, and it was created under God's guidance. Okay? And that reasoning is not based solely from the Islamic scriptures like the Quran and the Hadith. Okay, so reasoning should not be based solely on the scriptures or what the imams traditionally have been saying. It could come from other sources. So dito pa lang makikita nyo, no, na maybe the Mu'tazila kind of thinking would be conducive to the growth of science, scientific thought. The metaphysical world can be used to understand God and the world. So they have been attempting to know about details of these things, of the world, of the universe, of time, of force, of space, of gravity, etc., no, of movement. Okay. Next, atomic substances have properties that can affect other properties. So here we have the idea of cause and effect. And that man can create actions independent of God's will. Okay. That idea of free thinking, when it comes to man, is supported by Mu'tazila thought. Okay, so this is supported by Al-Mamun. As you remember, Al-Mamun is the leader, no, that made the flowering, the blossoming of science and technology possible. However, what is not good about his administration is that it forced their beliefs on others and persecuted those who had beliefs different from theirs. So one of those arrested by the Inquisition, no, that was made by them was a personality, no, known as Ibn Hanbal, who suggested that the caliph may decide on political matters but not religious matters. And that opposition to the Mu'tazilites grew with Ibn Hanbal's followers like Al-Hanbali, who portrayed the Mu'tazilites as tyrannical, even though they have this kind of free thinking or rationalist thinking. Their way of governance is not favorable. Okay, so that is the Mu'tazila. Any questions about that? At least I have shown you the basic characteristics of that kind of movement, no? The second one is Ash'ariyah. And in here, the followers have this belief that revelation rules over reason. That reason is valid as long as it did not conflict with scriptures. Okay, so scriptures is king here in Ash'ariyah. And that free will is only possible if it is allowed by Allah or God. Okay, free will should only be within what Allah allows us. And that the word of God as written in the Quran has existed from time immemorial. And it is non-negotiable. It cannot be contested. Okay, so those are the basic characteristics of the two, well, we could say opposing movements. There are other personalities in the Islamic realm, famous. Maybe you know some of these, like Omar Khayyam. Omar Khayyam is a poet, and he has written that work known as the Rubaiyat. He is an astronomer, is also a polymath, but he is atheistic, quite different from the other philosophers, his contemporaries. Al-Ghazali, meanwhile, is one thinker which is until today being held in high esteem by many Islamic thinkers and theologians. So he lived in the 11th century, and he said that whatever happens is a singular occasion governed by the will of God and not by nature. Okay? So I think this is the predominant philosophy, no, from the one by Al-Ghazali, being prevalent right now, especially in the Islamic countries, many Islamic countries or societies. Of course, there is Rumi. No? Although Rumi, if you are familiar with Rumi, Rumi is a poet who lived in Turkey, but originally he was from Afghanistan. And because the Mongols were advancing in Afghanistan, he has to move to a different place. And he found a city in Turkey, no, to be quite receptive of him and his ideas, and eventually his movement. No? If you are familiar with the whirling dervishes of Turkey, he started that movement. Okay, and he is quite popular in terms of literature. No? But in terms of science, no, I am not familiar if he had produced significant writings when it comes to science or scientific thought. Okay, as a recap, the Islamic philosophers, most of whom are followers of Islam, of course, no? Islamic philosophers, no? Believers in God, have been influential in how the Europeans see God. No? Eventually, they would inherit this kind of tradition, no? The whole package of it. Of course, sometimes with reservations. No? Little by little, no? The heritage have been trickling into medieval Europe. So together with these are the components of the philosophies, like the idea of God, the idea of the human soul, of the things around them, and so on, no? Of being Platonic, and then later on of transform or changing into being Aristotelian in thinking. Okay. So these are the things that were preserved, no, by the Islamic realm that would eventually usher in the development of modern science, the science that we know today. Okay, so this is the last slide. Do you have any questions? Any questions? Are you still there? Okay. Okay, wala. Okay, so for section Z2, your update, no, or the updates that I will give you about the grouping, yes, no, maybe tomorrow I will send it out in the VLE. Magpass ng groupings, so from Lian. Yes, you can still do so, but yes, please. Siguro gawin nyo na lang sa email so that I can see it at once because I have downloaded earlier this morning the ones in the VLE. I-send nyo na lang sa email. Okay? Para makita ko agad. Okay, what else? So the ones who have no groups yet, I will assign you groups and I will show you where I placed you. But of course, I will still ask if you want to be in that group. And for the group that should be receiving you, I will also ask them. Okay? So if there are no more questions, I will see you again on Thursday. No? Hopefully you will be also present in the 2 sessions. Okay? So thank you for attending this session and you may leave the online class now.